Hello and welcome to another episode of today's GK. I am Pooja Devedi, and in this segment we bring to you objective questions on a daily basis to help you crack prelims. So let's begin with the practice question of last segment. Which of the following countries opens in Mediterranean Sea? France, Algeria, Egypt, Cyprus. Select the correct answer using the codes given 1, 2 and 3 only, 2, 3 and 4 only, 1, 2 and 4 only, or 1, 2, 3 and 4. So the correct answer for this question is D. That is 1, 2, 3 and 4. All the countries do open up. So, countries around the Mediterranean Sea are Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Libya, Egypt, Israel, Lebanon, Cyprus, Syria, Turkey, Greece, Albania, Montenegro, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Croatia, Slovenia, Italy, France, and Spain. Asian Sea, Ionian Sea, Mediterranean Sea, and Sea of Crete. So, as we can see the map, here is the map. And there are the several countries surrounding this particular sea. So, moving on, let's talk about our first question. M. Nagraj case, Indra Sohani case, Jarnail Singh versus Ellen Gupta case, etc. are related to reservation, environment, religious freedom, sedition. So, here as you can see, there are plenty of options to choose from. If you know even one of the case related to these particular segments, you will be easily answering this. So, the correct answer for this question is A, that is reservation. Moving on, all the cases are related to reservation. The term creamy layer was first mentioned in the Supreme Court's landmark judgment in the Indra Sohani case of 1992. M. Nagraj case 2006, it reversed the stance in the Indra Sohani case. In this case, applying the creamy layer concept in SC/ST reservation and promotions, the Supreme Court reversed its earlier stance in the Indra Sohani case of 1992, in which it had excluded the creamy layer concept on SCs, STs that was applicable on OBCs. So if we talk about the creamy layers people are those citizens of India in the different categories, in specifically OBC, who are actually economically better than the rest of the others. So moving on, in Jarnail Singh versus Ellen Gupta 2018 case, SC refused to refer the Nagraj judgment to a higher bench, but later altered the decision by saying that states will not be required to present quantifiable data of backwardness of SC/ST communities. Let's move on to our next question. Consider the differences between insolvency and bankruptcy. Bankruptcy is a situation where individuals or companies are unable to repay their outstanding debt. Insolvency is a legal declaration of one's inability to pay off debts. So, which of the above sentences is or are correct? A1 only, B2 only, C both 1 and 2, D neither 1 nor 2. So, the correct answer for this question is D, that is neither 1 nor 2. Moving on to the explanation. If we talk about insolvency, it is a situation where individuals or companies are unable to repay their outstanding debt, right? And bankruptcy is a situation whereby a court of competent jurisdiction has declared a person or other entity insolvent, having passed appropriate orders to resolve it and protect the rights of the creditors. Now, it is a legal declaration of one's inability to pay off debts, right? Moving on, let's look at our next question. Consider the following sentences. According to the Tiger Census 2018, Karnataka has the second highest number of tigers in the country after Madhya Pradesh. The Bandipur Tiger Reserve, along with Nagarhole, Mudumalai, Satyamangalam, and Wayanad, constitutes the single largest wild population of tigers in the world. So, which of the following sentences is or are correct? A1 only, B2 only, C both 1 and 2, D neither 1 nor 2. So, the correct answer for this question is C. That is, both 1 and 2, both the statements are correct because yes, Madhya Pradesh has the highest number of tigers and followed by it is Karnataka. So, moving on, a stranded wild elephant was rescued in Nugu Reservoir close to Bandipur Tiger Reserve in Karnataka. Now, according to the Tiger Census of 2018, Karnataka has the second highest number of tigers in the country after Madhya Pradesh. The Bandipur along the Nagarhole, Mudumalai, Satyamangalam and Wayanad constitutes the single largest wild population of tigers in the world. So if we talk about the tiger population, the latest census has shown that India has recorded an increase in the number of tigers, and India accounts for approximately 70 to 75% of the world's tigers. So moving on, let's talk about this landscape is also home to the single largest Asian elephant population in the world and is part of the Mysore Elephant Reserve. Let's move on to our next question. Ex-Desert Night 21 is a bilateral exercise between India and Russia, France, UK, UAE. The correct answer for this question is B, France. Indian Air Force and French Air and Space Force will conduct a bilateral air exercise Ex-Desert Night 21 at Air Force Station Jodhpur from 20th to 24th January of 2021. Now, India and France are now taking care of their relationship a lot because of the driving force behind every relationship right now is China. Because Chinese aggression is growing at an unprecedented rate after the COVID-19 pandemic. So many countries, especially the Western countries, are actually concerned about its rise. So that is why India and France, which have been strong defense partners since the very beginning of the diplomatic relationship, are moving forward with it. Moving on, let's talk about our next question. Consider the following sentences about Guru Gobind Singh. He was born on 22nd December 1666 in Patna, Bihar. He was the 9th Sikh Guru. He is known for his significant contributions to the Sikh religion, including the introduction of the turban to cover hair. He also founded the principles of Khalsa or the 5 Ks. Moving on to the options. Which of the above sentences are correct? 1, 2 and 3 only, 2, 3 and 4 only, 1, 2 and 4 only, 1, 3 and 4 only. So the correct answer for this question is D, 1, 3 and 4 only. Moving on to the explanation. The last of the 10 Sikh Gurus, Guru Gobind Singh, was born on 22nd December 1666 in Patna, Bihar. His birth anniversary is based on the Nanak Shahi calendar, according to which it fell on January 20th in 2021, while for the last year it was celebrated on January 2nd. Moving on, he became the Sikh Guru at the age of 9 following the demise of his father, Guru Tej Bahadur, the 9th Sikh Guru. He was assassinated in 1708. He is known for his significant contributions to the Sikh religion, including the introduction of the turban to cover his hair. So, it can be asked in the prelims, different Sikh Gurus and what they introduced. So, here you have to remember that his contribution to the Sikh religion was introduction of turban to cover hair. Alright, moving on. He also founded the principles of Khalsa or the 5 Ks. The 5 Ks are Kesh, Kanga, Kada, Kirpan and Kashera. That means Kesh is uncut hair, Kanga is wooden comb, Kada is iron or steel bracelet and Kirpan is the dagger, and Kashera means short breeches. Now these were the 5 articles of faith that a Khalsa must always and always adorn. Let's move on to our next question. Justice Amitav Roy Committee is associated with which of the following? Banking reforms, prison reforms, company law reforms, tax structure reforms. So, moving on to the explanation. The correct answer for this question is B, that is prison reforms. There is an urgent need for decongesting the prisons, as the health experts have repeatedly called it breeding ground for uncontrolled transmission of the virus. The Supreme Court appointed the Justice Amitav Roy Committee in 2018 to examine the various problems plaguing prisons, from overcrowding to lack of legal advice to convicts to issues of remission and parole. Prisons or persons detained therein is a state subject under entry 4 of the list 2nd of the 7th schedule of the Constitution of India, and our prisons have been overcrowded because of the reason of the slow-moving judiciary. And judiciary, of course, depends on the police in order to collect evidence. So that is the biggest reason, that is the root of all problems, that proper and on time investigation should be held so that the prisoners who are actually not convicts but they can be acquitted, right? So that is the entire cause of the overcrowding of our prisons. Moving on. Let's look at our next question, which says, consider the following statements about the Startup India Seed Fund Scheme. The scheme aims to help startups with the initial capital for growth and operations. It will offer startups up to rupees 2 crore as a grant for proof of concept. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? 1 only, 2 only, both 1 and 2, neither 1 nor 2. The correct answer for this question is A, that is 1 only. The government will launch a 1,000 crore seed fund for startups called Startup India Seed Fund, which will help startups with the initial capital for growth and operations. The scheme will offer startups up to rupees 20 lakh as a grant of proof of concept. Up to rupees 50 lakh can also be availed through convertible debentures or debt-linked instruments for commercialization. So, let's move on to our next question. With reference to the Chabahar port, consider the following statements. Chabahar port is located on the Gulf of Oman. It is the only oceanic port of Iran. It consists of two separate ports named Shahid Beheshti and Shahid Kalindari. So, which of the statements given above is or are correct? 1 only, 1 and 3 only, 2 and 3 only, 1, 2 and 3. The correct answer for this question is D. That means all the statements are correct. Moving on to the explanation. A consignment of 2 mobile harbor cranes have been supplied to Iran's Chabahar port by India. The MHCs with 140 metric tons of lifting capacity will enable Indian Ports Global Limited to provide seamless service for the container, bulk and general cargo at the Shahid Beheshti port of Chabahar. Chabahar is located on the Gulf of Oman and is only 72 kilometers from the Gwadar port in Pakistan, which has been developed by China, and the port serves as the only oceanic port of Iran and consists of 2 separate ports named Shahid Beheshti and Shahid Kalantari. Moving on to our next question. International Migration Report of 2020 was recently released by which of the following? International Organization for Migration, International Labour Organization, United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs, World Economic Forum. So, moving on to the explanation. First, let's look at the answer. The correct answer for this question is C. United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs has released this report. Moving on to the explanation. The Population Division of the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs has recently released International Migration Report 2020. If we talk about the highlights of this report, India has the largest transnational population in the world, 18 million. Other countries which has a large diaspora, including Mexico, Russia, and China and Syria as well. India's large diaspora is distributed across a number of major countries of destination, with the UAE having 3.5 million strong Indian diaspora, the US has 2.7 million, and Saudi Arabia has 2.5 million hosting. These 3 countries host the largest number of migrants from India. Moving on. Other countries hosting large number of migrants from India includes Australia, Canada, Kuwait, Oman, Pakistan, Qatar and UK. Migration from India is largely motivated by labor and family reasons. So, let's look at the next question. Consider the following statements about the S-400 Triumph missile. It is the short-range surface-to-air missile system developed by Russia. It can engage all types of aerial targets which are within the range of 400 kilometers. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? 1 only, 2 only, both 1 and 2, neither 1 nor 2. The correct answer for this question is B, that is 2 only. Moving on to the explanation. The first group of Indian military specialists will soon undergo training courses on the S-400 long-range air defense system. The S-400 Triumph is a modern long-range surface-to-air missile system developed by Russia. The missile system integrates a multifunction radar, autonomous detection and targeting system, anti-aircraft missile system launchers and command and control center. It can provide a layered defense as it is capable of firing 3 types of missiles. It can engage in all types of aerial targets such as aircraft, ballistic and cruise missiles as well, unmanned aerial vehicles which are within the range of 400 km at an altitude of up to 30 km. It can track 100 airborne targets, including super fighters such as American-built F-35 and engage 6 of them simultaneously. Now, let's look at the practice question for our next segment. Consider the following statements. Adjournment suspends the work in a sitting for a specified time. Adjournment sine die means terminating a sitting of Parliament for an indefinite period, and the power of adjournment as well as adjournment sine die lies with the President. So, which of the statements given above is or are correct? 1 and 2 only, 1 and 3 only, 2 and 3 only, 1, 2 and 3, look at the statements once more. So, I hope that you will be able to answer it correctly in the comment segment. That's it for today. Tomorrow we shall meet again with another segment. Until then, stay updated and thank you so much for watching.